Hello again, third graders. We are going to continue on with taking notes for our research. And today we're going to be revisiting how we take notes with a subtopic. So we're just going to be practicing some of the skills that you've already learned. Yesterday, or the last time we met, we used text features and our essential question to help us kind of skim through our resources and take notes. By now, you should have some good notes on each one of your subtopics. And remember, each subtopic should have its own page so you can keep adding as you research. Today, we're going to revisit taking notes using structures you've already practiced: box and bullets, compare and contrast, and then sequential. And as you recall, sequential means in order. Our goal is to continue to add to our notes because you're going to be using these notes in your writing later. And that's really important, third graders. You want to have a lot of good notes that you can use when you get ready to do your writing. So let's quickly review the structures that we've already used. We've used box and bullets, which, as you know, is for main idea and details. Sometimes it's for lists or categories. And there's some important keywords you could use. One example is, one detail is, etc. The next kind of structure is compare and contrast. Remember, comparing and contrasting is to notice what's the same and what's different about something. Words you can use are, these are alike because, or these are different because. And the last one that we practiced was sequential. As you recall, sequential, the root word is sequence, and sequence means to put something in order. So you're going to be looking at the order of events or a timeline, and you're going to see words like first, next, last. All right, let's try this. So again, like I said, I have 3 subtopics that I'm studying that are going to help support my essential question. My 3 subtopics are families in Nigeria, ethnic groups, and geography. And those all support my essential question of what are the people of Nigeria like? So the source that I'm using for this is Encyclopedia Britannica, which is actually something I used a lot when I was a kid. As you can see, I'm doing the exact same thing that I was doing yesterday. I'm skimming text features to help me find information. As you can see over on the left, there's a couple of things that kind of stand out to me. That's kind of like the table of contents. And I thought some things that could potentially help me here were people. I also thought that geographic regions, because I know we're studying about some of the geography of Nigeria, could help me. So I thought that those were 2 things that could potentially help me as I was taking notes. So, of course, I went to the people part, and there's this section on families. You'll notice my notes from yesterday are right here, and I'm just going to continue to add on to them. And from my reading today, I used box and bullets because the whole section that I read about was about celebrations. And I found out that celebrations are really important for families and that they need to be together, and that sometimes celebrations are delayed when families live outside of the country, and they wait for those families to be able to join them. Weddings and funerals are also very important to families in Nigeria. So I just added that onto my notes. The next part I looked at was the ethnic groups. I learned a lot more about ethnic groups today than I did yesterday from my research. It was a pretty long section, but what I learned is that ethnic groups consider the land to be an inheritance, which means that it's passed down from generation to generation. And those who weren't there to begin with are kind of like outsiders. I learned that the Hausa live mostly in the north and they live in towns. The Yoruba live in the southwest in towns, but they have farms outside of the cities that they live in. And the Igbo live in the southeast and they live in small settlements. The next section I looked at was kind of that settlement pattern, because I know that from what I can infer, is about geography. So for this, I found that there were 2 separate things that I was looking at. I was looking at rural, which means kind of like the country where there's not a lot of people, and then also urban, which means kind of like cities. And I thought that the best way to take notes on this was using a compare and contrast structure. So that's what I did. I used a Venn diagram in my notes. And I found out that people who live in the rural parts of Nigeria live in something called compounds, and that many of these compounds make a village. And then in the urban side, I found out that most of the urban cities are on the coast, and that's where the population is pretty dense, which means there's a lot of people. And most of those towns are really, really old. The thing they all have in common, though, is that they're all in Nigeria, which is why that's right in the middle of my Venn diagram. Okay, third graders. So today, like I said, we were practicing using some of our note-taking structures that we've used before. And so that's going to be your goal today too. As you continue your research, because remember, you want to have a lot of notes, you're going to want to be thinking about the way the text is structured. That's going to help you figure out how you need to take notes. As always, you're going to start by setting a goal for yourself. You're going to use your essential question to help you find notes, or you can skim your resources to find important information. After you've done skimming your resources and keeping your essential question and subtopics in mind, you're going to think about how you want to take notes. You want to use box and bullets, compare and contrast, or sequential. Remember, some of these work and some of these don't. I didn't find anything in my research today that made me think that I needed to use the sequential way of taking notes. So if one of these doesn't work, that's okay. These are all just choices you have for taking notes. When you find your information, make sure that you take notes under the correct subtopic so that it all stays nice and organized. Of course, take a picture or a video of your work and send it to your teacher on Seesaw or Class Dojo. Until next time, third graders, good luck.